My name is Lucas Barger, and my FOA topic is how prevalent is textual bias in mass media. And the purpose of this FOA is to show the way mass media uses language and image to inform, persuade, or entertain. And this subject is important to me because I feel that it's important to be able to recognize and identify bias throughout mass media. And without that, you aren't able to understand like the main purpose behind different types of mass media. And it's just really important to know. So for this FOA, we are going to be looking at two interviews from two high school students. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the first one.
Hi man, what's going on? What's your name?
My name is Ben.
What grade are you in?
I'm in the 11th grade.
Alright, would it be alright if I asked you a couple questions for an interview?
Sure.
Alright, have you ever heard of textual bias?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Alright, like when you hear the word bias, like what comes to mind?
Like favorite or like I guess like kind of like leaning towards one side, I guess.
Okay, how common do you think bias is in like the real world?
I'd say like a lot. Like a lot of things are like favored.
Okay, when you see bias, where do you like usually see it? Like media or
I
like?
guess like in media, like like in like politics and stuff like that.
Okay. Are you able to like when you're looking at something? Are you able to identify it like easily?
Yeah, sometimes like it's really easy to see like when something's biased. 'Cause, like you can tell like they just kind of like make the other side seem better than another, like something like that. Just makes it look worse.
Okay. And can you give any specific examples of bias that you can think of?
Like politics specifically, so it's like ads or like campaigns when they're like trying to like I guess diss the other like candidates, stuff like that. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
And how important do you think bias is?
it's like really important because like it's important for like you to understand it, like know like that if something's biased or not. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right.
As you can see in the interview, the students seem to know a little bit about what textual bias is, but didn't really have a full understanding of the importance of textual bias and how to identify it. And one of the most important things about textual bias is being able to not only know like what it is, but being able to identify it so you can get a further understanding of what the purpose behind many different articles and different types of media are throughout the world. So this interview helped kind of give us a general understanding of what most people think of textual bias and how they use it in real life. So now for the next interview.
Hey, what's going on, Bowen?
Alright, hey Lucas.
What grade are you in, Bowen?
I'm a junior.
All right. Is it all right if I interview you for a couple of minutes here?
Of course.
All right. Have you ever heard of textual bias?
Yeah, I have. That's when a text leans to one side more than the other.
Okay. When you hear the word bias, like, what comes to mind? What do you think of?
I think like unfair, like when someone has an opinion and it affects their ideas.
Okay. How common do you think bias is in the everyday world?
I think it's very common. I think there's bias in just about everything.
Okay. When you see bias, where do you usually see it?
I see it a lot when I'm doing research for school and things like that, and I see a lot of it in politics and a lot of things like that.
Okay. So when you are like looking at an article or something, how difficult do you think it is to find bias?
Very, very difficult. Very difficult.
Yeah. And can you give any like specific examples that you can think of bias?
So for example, like if Donald Trump wrote a paper, then it would probably be a more conservative paper.
All right. And how important do you think bias is?
I think it's very important.
All right. Thank you for your time, Bowen.
Of course, Lucas.
In the second interview, the student had a general understanding of what bias is and was able to also give a couple of examples of where to find it in real life. But as you guys heard, he also stated that it was really difficult to spot sometimes, and he doesn't necessarily look for textual bias when reading something. So This interview kind of shows us a perspective of like another person and how they felt towards bias, and is really useful for getting a general understanding of how the public really feels about general bias and what they know and understand about it. So textual bias is prevalent throughout almost all mass media, and it is very important to be able to understand and recognize textual bias. Textual bias really helps you understand the purpose behind why something was written or made, and it can come in many different forms. One example of this is an article called Remote Control, written by Sarah Marshall. This article is a really controversial topic of the 1994 Winter Olympic Games. The article focuses on Nancy Kerrigan's attack during the event and talks about all the events that led up to it and followed it. The article really shows textual bias towards one of the people that was claimed to be an attacker, known as Tanya Harding, and it really victimizes her to make it seem like she was completely innocent when she definitely had at least some sort of input on the situation. Um, Many other forms of mass media will also show textual bias towards one side, so it's really important to be able to identify and understand textual bias so you do not fall into the trap of textual bias. Thank you for coming to watch my presentation. I will see you guys later.